Kaddi, most of our clients are eager to embark on digital transformation journey. However, this modernization path, cutting through all the technical debt, ensuring the security, governance, and all the things that are expected today, is often challenging. How are you seeing your clients traversing this path such that the seamless migration is realized, there's value at the end of it?
Sure. I mean, that's a sort of a concern for pretty much every client we speak to, right? When you think of legacy modernization, the first and foremost challenge is the business case, right? How much tech debt do you carry? How do you sort of retire some of it, get to more modern architectures, etc.? Getting the right business case is very critical because that drives ability to actually walk the course. Once you get there, the second problem usually that happens is talent, right? So how do you sort of have the talent or the partners to walk that journey? One of the important things that is missing in the DNA of organizations or IT organizations, of organizations, is cloud-first thinking, cloud-first design and application architecture, etc. So that imposes another challenge. And last but not least, obviously, even if one does get through all this and with security and guardrails, etc., there is still the whole process reimagination. How does this actually deliver value and business outcomes, right? So I think some of these are challenges that every client faces, and we work with so many clients on, independently or across all of these with them.
Yeah, so I think, Kaddi, what you mentioned, I completely relate to it. There's one fundamental shift which I'm noticing. Every client that we are working with, irrespective of the industry, they're aspiring to be a technology company today, right? There is major investments and focus which is going on in building platforms. They are bringing in product thinking, they are bringing in design thinking, and that's really the opportunity. They're open to learn as well. I'll give you two examples on where we are seeing this happen, right? And they're unique in nature and different. The first one that I want to, and it's very close to what I have seen personally with my team, is a payment startup. It's in the fintech world. They have a payments platform that has been modernized. They have envisioned it across multiple countries, supporting 120 currencies, 700 plus APIs to modernize. They came to Deloitte to work with us, to bring in the engineering brilliance, to work with them and ramp up their team, right? So there were three components into what we did, along with the client, of course. One is, of course, envisioning the product and being part of the product team itself, right? So you get to envision how the payments functions really works, what is the technology architecture, how do you meet the SLAs? The second one is 24/7 support. How do you make and run it? Very, very complex environment, very complex implementations, right? So that's one side of it. The second is a large enterprise, one of the top 5 global consumer product companies. They aspired to move and modernize from an on-prem, old technology driven systems into modern architecture. It has been a 5 to 6 years journey with us. And we started conceptualizing how the modernization journey really worked. We worked on an operating model to help them even envision what is the art of possible from a technology standpoint, right? So you will see these different flavors, but at the end of the day, engineering is geared to bring in that optimization, the speed, your ability to help business change faster. I think I relate to all the challenges that Kaddi has mentioned, and I think it's a very relevant question that you have brought up.
When we look at concept to bringing solutions to production, there are multiple choices that need to be made, right? First choice, of course, is choice of product platforms. Then there is choice, whether to go sort of best of breed or best of suite, right? And I think important point you made, right? How do you sort of design with operate in mind as well? Eventually, that's the long-term ask, as well as working with different service providers, right? So Do you go with boutiques? Do you go with niche? Do you go with multidisciplinary, broad spectrum providers who can bring all the value under one roof, right? So I think these are some fundamental questions that every client, tries to address. So what is it that that you're seeing?
See, and please chime in as well. I believe talent is extremely important. That's the first thing, and more so, the diverse capability of the talent is needed, right? Because we are solving very, very complex problems. You need to have a engineering mindset. So our engineers, for example, there are a couple of flavors. Okay? You have data scientists in your team. You have people who understands the infrastructure or the hardware engineering part, because at times you need to solve for it. You have your software engineers who are coming in with very, very niche technology capabilities. So diversity of the talent is extremely important for us to build and work on, and then only you can succeed. But the second important part that I've seen is, once you have this diverse talent pool, how do you collaborate with the client? Because they are the ones who are running the business. How do you really bring in the business perspective and driving these solutions? I think once both of them come together, I think we are able to kind of get to it.
Very
love
true.
to hear you.
Very true. And I think there are three things that stand out for the clients who have been able to crunch these concept to production journey. The first is for them to have an outside-in perspective to drive the ambition at the start of it and challenge the orthodoxies. So the fusion team of software engineers, the business product managers, also the people who are making the whole blueprint and architecture work together, they are able to conceptualize and take that faster to the development. The second part really is to have the right tools and techniques in place. These are the newer ways of building software. They are able to have a real-time check of what is really getting developed, how it is going impacting the persona. And finally, like you mentioned, it's bringing together the different platforms and different providers to simplify the architecture, because it is often very difficult to have a diverse set of tools come together and still have the integration cost, etc., quite high. So what would be the mantra that you would say for collaboration and making the sense of this multipolar sort of technology landscape for the clients to move forward?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a difficult choice sometimes to make if you're. It depends on the client, right? So if performance in various forms is the absolute must for the end customer who's going to consume the application, consume the data, consume the intelligence, then one needs to possibly look at a strategy which is more focused on delivering that performance. But in most cases, increasingly it is simplification of the landscape that avoids complexities. It's much more practical, right? So diverse skill sets, how do you retain and manage the talent, how do you advance? There are certain advances that are happening. Most of the hyperscalers, for instance, if you look at the field of AI, release something like 5 new features or algorithms or options every day. That's a 1,500 options otherwise which don't come, right? So some of these choices are immensely sensible. Of course, it's balanced by the ROI and how one gets there. So that's my observation.
And you mentioned AI. That's a generational shift. In many ways, it has the potential to drive business outcome, productivity, and satisfaction for all the developers, for the tech companies. And very pertinent question, how is Agentic AI, Generative AI, going to change the modernization journey, differentiation in the market, staying relevant? What are your thoughts on that?
So you might be surprised, but my strong belief is that it has already changed. and it is changing the mindset. If you look at our talent pool, if you look at the engineers that we are bringing, they are realizing the fact that if they use AI, their productivity goes up by 30 to 50%, right? They're able to get the work done much faster and quicker. Their ability to actually meet the timelines and create an MVP product that can be usable is exponentially increased. So there is AI already into the development process, and that has been embedded. Agentic AI will bring in a next layer of change and innovation into the product. How do we do? Many of it will be connected to the business process design itself. That's my belief. I think we are already in that journey, and we are seeing some significant impact being created for our clients. And it's always co-development with our clients. That's my belief.
No, absolutely. But in addition to that, I think there are two fundamental shifts as well, right? Obviously, productivity and the process of developing products, timelines and roadmaps are significantly shrinking. But also two more fundamental pieces, right? So one is, if you look at the long arc of history of software, there's been a sort of shift from custom software to packaged software for many users. And one of the reasons is that the economics of developing and managing custom software was significantly more challenging. However, in, let's say, 30 years ago, it was the business process and operations which was the fundamental differentiator, and software supported that. Whereas moving to packaged software has leveled the field for everybody in terms of processes, and therefore differentiation is so much harder to find. But there is a strong belief now with the advent of generative and agentic AI in particular, that the unit economics of custom software is going to, sort of bring a resurgence of custom software as a concept, and as because a lot of necessary features are much easier focused and developed and managed. The second big shift, which I believe, is in the human-machine interface, which has largely been either, obviously in history through prompts, etc., but largely through UI, right? Whether it's through a mobile platform or through through a web platform or otherwise. Now that is fundamentally changing, with agents being the interface, and so apart from obviously productivity and the process of developing software itself, I think these three are going to fundamentally lift and elevate the opportunities that exist to drive business outcomes and differentiation.
I was just saying, it's interesting to see how fast the evolution of AI has been in making the enterprise scale products become reality through some of the interoperability standards, so that the multi-agent orchestration becomes more scalable and more modular in nature. Are you seeing examples of that already being on production? Clients are realizing value by using that technology in many ways?
So when I mentioned about every organization is trying to become a technology company, while AI and agentic AI is getting embedded into what they're trying to do, the entire aspect of modular products, I would say interconnected products through platforms, is the way the organizations are seeing how to evolve, right? So while there is parallel development which is happening, very focused on outcomes for a certain business, there is a platform engineering team who's essentially standing up those infrastructures, connecting those products together, right? So I think that's the fundamental shift. There is always going to be a demand which is moving faster from a business standpoint, but you cannot lose focus on the interconnectivity of the platforms that are absolutely important for any organization to be able to scale. I think that's a major.
Absolutely. And just to take a simple example, right? In our own case, we find if an employee has to shift from, let's say we are in Bangalore to, let's say, Delhi, there are 5 or 6 systems which are touched, right? So there's the payroll system, there is the physical assets, which are in a asset register. There is tickets which need to be raised for various movements and tagging them in different systems to their location, and multiple other such things. These are easily low-hanging fruit for orchestration using multiple agents, because each of those have their own agentic platforms, and the overall framework can sort of orchestrate this. So I think we are already seeing and significant value in those.
Kaddi, based on the work that you've seen, I mean, the one pertinent area that often clients are asking is, what is that innovation element? Yes, there is a technology angle to it. Yes, there is an agentic view on how to optimize or bring in. But any examples that you would want to share from an innovation standpoint?
Absolutely. So for a global major company, we are actually from India, their innovation partner, which means we co-create innovations, invest into creating MVP. So for example, there is a problem where visibility of certain types of information is not available, is not democratized, right? So how do we do that? So what we looked at was an application which gives some samples of what information is available, because telling someone what databases are available, telling someone what information is available is always dependent on how current and how well maintained, how well defined those are as standards, which we all know is questioned. So giving sample information actually helps understand what's there, how they can derive value from it. So creating frameworks using XML, an app interface, so nobody needs to know any technology. The XML makes it loosely definable, goes accesses different parts of data which exist and throws it back. And afterwards, one can schedule what they want, when they want it, so they're able to derive the business value of what they do. Similarly, there are other solutions. So for example, increasing the world, one of the after effects of generative AI has been that not only internal information and data of systems which exist in the enterprise, but external data is vastly available to be consumed. And harmonizing these in order for them to be meaningfully consumed by any manager or any decision maker or leader requires a combination of disciplines, right? So your UI, UX, engineering, AI, ML to make sort of correlate, and obviously generative AI. And there could be agents which sort of help build this as well as run it, right? So that approach, all of engineering approach, that and I'm proud to say we've sort of put our money where our mouth is to actually move to that model, has really helped us be that partner, right? So how do we co-create in true sense with the clients? And if it becomes successful, how do we scale it? Now we've scaled it to more than 100 partners of that client in their broader ecosystem, as well as across about 40 countries as of now, and we're looking at the next 80.
And it has been, just to add on to what you said, it has been amazing the type of investments that we have been able to make in this Deloitte Center of Innovation and Technology. I think whenever you bring clients over here, they're amazed to see the amount of innovation and the engineering brilliance we are trying to bring in. Absolutely. But what has been your experience?
So for example, our ability to innovate across layers, where the front-end users, the workforce, is enabled through intelligent real-time guidance, to have the right sort of weaving into data and multiple applications integrated using APIs, MCPs. I think that really coming alive, their ability to see it in action, is driving the real change faster. They are breaking orthodoxies of how much time it takes to really innovate. Today, it doesn't really take a lot of time for, let's say, for a Alcobev organization to have the real-time insights coming in to the sales, distribution, and marketing organization users, all bases the data that has been synthesized and over a long period of time connected together. So that is what the innovation at Deloitte is driving and enabling our users to do.
Yeah, and my experience has also been, I mean, three things about DCIT itself, which is, it's a very unique facility, right? The one is looking at the future of business, future of the front office, middle office, back office, and how that shapes. The second is it's experiential, right? It opens the minds to possibilities to get inspiration from, and then ideate, right, rather than get straight away into it, right? And so it's walkabout. It's not a PowerPoint, right? The third thing is the applications of all that we talk about, whether it's AI, whether it is control towers, whether it is applications, whether it is computer vision, whether it is GIS, whether it's production systems, digital twins, etc. All of that it's a physical plus application. It's an application-centric experience, right? So application of the technology into a real-world scenario. I think that's what this is. You get a sense of how the rubber hits the road, and that I believe is key to why this innovation center.
And that's like making the future of engineering come alive faster in front of our clients and drive that impact.
You don't have to imagine it; it's there to see and then imagine.
So brilliant. I mean, very enriching. Just to summarize, what would you say is the top 2 shifts that you are seeing in the industry? And maybe after that, Kaddi, you can add, and then perhaps I can add after that as well. But
sure. The first thing is really it's about making the business simpler, the way business should be, rather than how technology mandates the business to work. It's more like business at the speed of how it should have been. And the second really is the entry barriers for innovation, for collaboration, have really been lowered through the evolution of what AI has brought in. So the time to make an experiment reach the production is faster. So this is probably a generational shift, first of its kind in my mind, where it is a continuous innovation rather than there is an innovation and a stabilization phase. So this is moving very fast, and that really is driving.
So maybe from my perspective, 2 things, right? So one is, traditionally we used to think of all these as different disciplines, right? So front end, applications, integration, data platforms, AI, ML, infra and cloud, the quality for reliability and robustness. But these have all sort of come together and clashed into each other, which forms, no app is intelligent without data and AI. No AI is possible without the app digitization, which collects rich enough data. And none of them is possible in an ROI without the right infra, and so on and so forth, right? So all of these have come together, and that's sort of the power of engineering as a whole, right? The second thing is that because of these shortened cycles, I think disruption is around the corner. You just don't know from whom. Most probably not from your traditional rivals, right? True for us as much as for our clients. So the key, which is, it's a cliche, but disrupt before you're disrupted, disrupt yourself before you're disrupted, is absolutely, sort of coming alive in today's world. And unless we constantly look at ourselves and how we can do things better every day, every week, every quarter, and differently, there's danger of extinction.
Absolutely. And I was just hearing you and was wondering what's probably left for me to add on to this. I mean, very interesting points, very relevant, both of you have made. If I were to pick 2 things from my perspective, what I'm seeing, and the fact that you have used a phenomenal word of generative shift, which is happening. First and foremost, I think within the client organization, the entire shift to product mindset, we are seeing that dramatically change. And I see that as a big positive way of adopting engineering and software development, right? Second thing, I believe with hyper-converged cloud, the solution is going to go more towards the edge, which essentially means if you're working on an Industry 4.0 solutions, how do you go and have your solutions built closer to the machines rather than having the data all the way thrown into the cloud? And it's a change that is fast getting adopted. That's the way to go. But engineering is exciting. I think it's challenging as well. And the future is really bright for all the engineers.
And at Deloitte, we are bringing that future show up faster.